She said cancel, but everyone else showed up. Who knew? And why did she lie?
My sister told me her wedding was canceled, and less than 12 hours later, she was walking down the aisle. Let that sink in for a second. Because I didn't miss the wedding by accident. I didn't get stuck in traffic. I didn't oversleep. I stayed home because she told me not to come. And the worst part? I believed her. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Lena Carter. I'm 28. And up until that weekend, I would have told you without hesitation that my younger sister Maya and I were close. Not perfect, not one of those movie-style best friend-sister relationships, but close enough that when she got engaged, I was the first person she called. I helped her pick the venue. I went with her to try on dresses. I spent hours, actual hours on the phone with her when she was stressed, overwhelmed, or second-guessing everything. So when my phone lit up the day before the wedding, I didn't expect anything unusual. Just a normal message. Maybe nerves. Maybe last-minute chaos. Instead, I saw this. The wedding's off. That was it. No explanation, no call, no panic. Just a statement. I remember staring at the screen, waiting for the next message, hoping it would make sense. Then another text came in. Venue canceled. Okay, what? And then, we'll reschedule. 3 messages. Short, cold, final. If you were in my position, what would you think? Because my first reaction wasn't anger. It wasn't suspicion. It was concern. I immediately called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, "Are you okay? What happened? Do you need help? Call me." Nothing. No reply. Then I tried Ethan, her fiancé. Same thing. No answer. At that point, something felt off. Not just wedding canceled off. Something deeper. Stranger. Because this wasn't like Maya. She was dramatic, sure. Emotional, yes. But silent, distant, controlled like this? Never. And here's where it gets important. I had already taken time off work. I had already traveled back into town. I had already spent money I couldn't really afford because I wanted her day to be perfect. So now I'm sitting there, dressed down in sweatpants instead of a bridesmaid dress, staring at my phone, trying to figure out what just happened. And the thought crosses my mind. Should I go to the venue anyway? Just to check? Just in case. But then another thought hits me just as fast. What if it really is canceled? What if she's dealing with something serious? What if showing up makes things worse? So I don't go. I stay home. I tell myself I'm respecting her space, being the understanding older sister, like always. Hours pass. No updates, no calls, just silence until later that evening when something doesn't sit right anymore. I'm in my car. I don't even fully decide to do it. I just start driving. And somehow, I end up near the venue. I tell myself I'm just passing by, just checking, just making sure. But as I turn onto that street, I see it. Cars, dozens of them. The parking lot completely full. Lights glowing from inside the building. And faintly, music. My hands tighten on the steering wheel. Because in that moment, there's only one question running through my head. If the wedding was canceled, then what am I looking at? And that's when I realized something that didn't just confuse me. It dropped straight into my stomach. The wedding wasn't canceled. It was happening. And I wasn't there. The first thing I did wasn't call her. It wasn't confront anyone. I just sat there. In the car. Engine running. Hands frozen on the wheel. Because my brain was trying to catch up to what my eyes were already seeing. Cars packed into every space. People walking in dressed up. Soft golden light spilling out of the venue windows. This wasn't a setup. This wasn't staff cleaning up after a cancellation. This was a wedding. Her wedding. So let me ask you something. What would you do in that moment? Would you walk in? Would you storm inside and demand answers? Or would you sit there like I did, trying to convince yourself there had to be another explanation? I told myself maybe it was something else, a different event, a coincidence. But deep down, I already knew. I didn't get out of the car. And I think that's the part people don't understand when I tell this story. I didn't go in because some part of me already felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. Not because I was told not to come, but because I had been removed. So instead, I drove home. The entire way, my chest felt tight, like I had missed something obvious, like I had done something wrong without realizing it. And the questions started piling up. Why would she lie? Why not just tell me not to come? Why go through all this instead of being honest? None of it made sense. Until I got home and made the mistake that answered everything. I opened Instagram, and there it was. The first post hit me instantly. A picture of Maya, in her wedding dress, smiling, radiant, standing at the altar. Caption, best day ever. My stomach dropped. I kept scrolling. More photos. Her and Ethan exchanging vows. Her laughing with friends. Our parents standing beside her, smiling like nothing was wrong. Nothing was wrong except me. Except the fact that I wasn't in a single photo, not in the background, not mentioned, not even a comment asking where I was. It was like I didn't exist. And here's where it gets worse. I checked the timestamps. These weren't old photos. These were happening in real time. While I was sitting at home, wondering if my sister was okay, she was walking down the aisle. While I was texting her asking if she needed help, she was posing for pictures. And everyone knew. That's the part that started to sink in slowly, and then all at once. This wasn't just Maya, because weddings don't happen in secret. Our parents were there. Our relatives were there. Friends, I knew people who had asked me if I was excited were there. And not one person thought to call me. Not one person said, "Hey, where are you?" It was coordinated. Or, at the very least, accepted. I sat there on my bed, phone in hand, scrolling through image after image of a moment I was supposed to be part of. A moment I helped build. And the only thought repeating in my head was, they all knew and no one told me. Hours passed like that. No messages. No apologies. No explanations. Just post after post after post. Until eventually, exhaustion hit me harder than the confusion. I don't even remember falling asleep. But I do remember what woke me up. My phone vibrating next to me. Early. Too early. A name flashing on the screen. Maya. My sister calling me like nothing had happened. And as I stared at the screen, one question echoed louder than all the others. What could she possibly say that would make any of this make sense? I didn't answer the call, not right away. The phone kept vibrating against my nightstand, that same name flashing over and over. Maya. I just stared at it. Because how do you answer a call like that? What do you even say? Hey, I saw you had your wedding without me, hope it went well? It didn't feel real. None of it did. So I let it ring and ring until it finally stopped. Silence filled the room again, but it wasn't the same kind of silence from the day before. This one felt heavier, like something had shifted overnight and there was no going back to whatever things were before. A second later, my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. I hesitated, then pressed play. Her voice came through, soft, casual, almost like she was checking in after a normal day. Hey, call me when you can. We need to talk. That was it. No urgency. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she had just done. Just, we need to talk. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Because at that point, it wasn't just confusing anymore. It was starting to feel intentional. And that's when my mind did something dangerous. It started going backward, replaying everything, every conversation, every moment leading up to the wedding, looking for signs I missed. And the more I thought about it, the more things didn't sit right. Maya and I had always had a certain dynamic. I was the older sister, the dependable one, the one who fixed problems, smoothed things over, showed up no matter what. Maya? She was different. She lit up rooms, people gravitated toward her, but she also needed to be the center of things. Even growing up, there was this unspoken rule in our family: keep Maya happy. If she was upset, everything revolved around fixing it. If I was upset, I was told to be patient, to understand, to not make things worse. And I did. For years. Even during the wedding planning, actually especially during the wedding planning, I helped her pick that venue. I was there when she tried on her dress for the first time. I stayed up late helping her organize seating charts when she was overwhelmed. I even paid for part of the deposit when she said she was short. And she leaned on me constantly, calling me over small things, big things, everything in between. But now, looking back, there were moments, small ones, easy to brush off at the time. Like when I suggested cutting down the guest list to save money, and she snapped, "Not everything has to be your decision, Lena." Or when I questioned inviting a few people she didn't even seem close to anymore, and she went quiet, cold. Or the way she'd sometimes say, "You always think you know what's best." At the time, I thought it was just stress, wedding stress. But now, it felt like something else, something building. And then there was the night of the rehearsal dinner. I remember trying to help coordinate timing with the venue staff and Maya pulling me aside. Her smile was tight. "Can you just not take over everything for once?" That one stuck, because I hadn't thought I was taking over. I thought I was helping. That's what she always asked me to do, right? So, sitting there, replaying all of this, one question started to form. Did she actually want me there at all? Or had I just assumed I did? My chest tightened again as I picked up my phone, scrolling through the wedding photos one more time. Looking closer this time, not at what was there, but at what wasn't. No confusion on anyone's faces. No concern. No last-minute chaos you'd expect if someone important was missing. Everything looked smooth, planned, normal, like my absence had already been accounted for. And that's when the thought hit me. This didn't happen last minute. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was planned. I swallowed hard, my eyes drifting back to my phone. To her voicemail, "We need to talk." Yeah, we really did. But suddenly, I wasn't sure I was the one who needed answers the most. Because now, a different question was forming. What exactly had she told everyone else about me? I called her back, and within 30 seconds, I knew she wasn't going to tell me the truth. She picked up almost immediately. Too fast. Like she'd been waiting for it. "Hey," she said, light, casual, like we were just catching up after a normal weekend. "I was wondering when you'd call." I didn't respond right away, because I was listening, not just to what she was saying, but how she was saying it. No hesitation. No guilt. No trace of someone who had just excluded her own sister from her wedding. So I skipped everything else. "Why did you lie to me?" Silence. Not long, but long enough. Then she exhaled. It wasn't like that. That sentence. It's amazing how quickly someone can try to reshape reality with just 5 words. I sat up straighter. "Then what was it like, Maya? Because I saw the venue, I saw the photos, you had your wedding." Another pause. And when she spoke again, her tone shifted, subtle but noticeable. It was complicated. There it was again. Vague, distant, controlled. "No," I said, sharper this time. "It's actually really simple. You told me it was canceled. It wasn't, so explain it." She hesitated longer this time. And then she said something that didn't just confuse me. It shifted everything. "I didn't think you coming would be a good idea." I blinked. "What?" "I just didn't think you'd react well." React? To what? That was the first crack in the story. Because now, suddenly, this wasn't about logistics. It wasn't about the venue. It was about me. Or at least, that's what she wanted it to be about. "What are you talking about?" I asked slowly. And instead of answering directly, she pivoted. "You've been really controlling lately, Lena." I actually pulled the phone away from my ear for a second. "Controlling? Excuse me?" "You have," she continued, more confident now. During the planning, you kept trying to make decisions, questioning things. I was helping you, I cut in. Exactly, she snapped. You always think you're helping, but you don't realize how overwhelming you are. That hit harder than I expected, because it wasn't just an accusation. It sounded rehearsed, like something she had already said, more than once. Overwhelming enough to uninvite me from your wedding? I asked. I didn't uninvite you, she said quickly. I just handled the situation the best way I could. By lying? But before I could say that, she added something else. Something that didn't sit right at all. There were things going on that you didn't know about. My stomach tightened. What things? She hesitated again. I don't think it matters now. That's when the frustration really started to rise. Because every answer she gave just created more questions. And none of them made sense. So I changed my approach. If it doesn't matter, I said quietly, then tell me why Mom and Dad didn't say anything. That did it. That was the shift. Because for the first time, she didn't respond right away. And when she finally did, her voice was lower. They thought you knew. I froze. What? That you weren't coming, she clarified. I told them you had something going on. Something going on. I felt my grip tighten on the phone. So you didn't just lie to me, I said slowly. You lied to everyone. I didn't lie, she insisted quickly. I just didn't explain everything. That's the same thing, Maya. No, it's not, she snapped. You're twisting it. Twisting it? I let out a short breath, trying to steady myself. Because now, this wasn't just about being excluded. This was bigger. How many people knew I wasn't coming, I asked. She didn't answer. Maya? Another pause. Most of them. That word echoed. Most, meaning this wasn't last minute. This wasn't impulsive. This was organized, planned, and suddenly, the room felt smaller. Because if most people knew, then that meant something else too. Something worse. They didn't just know I wasn't coming. They knew why. Or at least, they thought they did. And right on cue, as if the universe decided I wasn't overwhelmed enough already, my phone buzzed. A new message. From my cousin Rachel. I glanced at the screen while Maya was still talking, still explaining, still avoiding. And what I read made my chest drop instantly. I didn't want to say anything yesterday, but you deserve to know what Maya told everyone about you. I stopped listening to Maya completely, because suddenly, I wasn't just the person who didn't show up. I was the person she had already explained. And I had a feeling I wasn't going to like that explanation. That message changed everything. I didn't even say goodbye. I pulled the phone away from my ear while Maya was still talking, still explaining something that no longer mattered, and ended the call. Because whatever she was saying, it wasn't the truth. Not the full version. And I could feel it. My hands were already shaking as I opened Rachel's message. For a second, I just stared at it. Because once I read this, there was no going back to not knowing. Then I tapped. Her message came through in pieces. Slow. Careful. Like she had rewritten it more than once before sending. Maya told people you weren't coming because of a personal issue. I frowned. A personal issue? What does that even mean? But then the next line came in. But that's not really how she said it. My stomach dropped. I kept reading. She told people you'd been causing problems during the planning, that you were making things about yourself. I actually let out a quiet, disbelieving breath. Because that wasn't just inaccurate. It was the complete opposite of what happened. I kept scrolling. She said it was better if you didn't come, that it would just create tension. Tension. That word again. The same one she hinted at on the phone. Only now, it sounded different. More deliberate. More constructed. And then came the line that made everything click into place. I heard her tell someone she would have ruined it if she came. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Still. Because in that moment, everything stopped being confusing. It started making sense. Not in a good way, but in a clear way. This wasn't miscommunication. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a decision. A calculated one. She didn't just want me gone. She needed a reason for me to be gone. And she built one. I leaned back against the wall, phone still in my hand, staring at nothing. Because now the questions were different. Not why didn't she tell me, but why did she need me gone so badly? Because people don't go this far without a reason. They don't lie to family, coordinate stories, rewrite someone's role in their life, unless there's something they're trying to control or hide. And that's when something surfaced. A memory. Small at first, easy to overlook. But now, it felt important. It was about 3 weeks before the wedding. Maya had called me late at night. Not her usual stressed, frantic calls. This one was quieter, more serious. She told me she was having doubts. Not about the wedding itself, but about Ethan. She admitted there had been a moment, not physical but emotional, with someone else months earlier. Someone she never told Ethan about. And she didn't know if she should. I remember sitting there, listening, choosing my words carefully. I didn't judge her. I didn't threaten to tell anyone. I just said one thing. If you're going to marry him, it has to be honest. That was it. No pressure, no ultimatums, just honesty. And she had gone quiet after that, changed the subject. And we never talked about it again. Until now. Because suddenly, it didn't feel unrelated anymore. It felt connected. Too connected. My chest tightened as the realization settled in. If she thought I might bring that up, if she thought there was even a chance I'd say something, or that it would show in the way I acted, then removing me from the wedding wouldn't just be easier. It would be necessary. Controlled. Safe. I looked back down at my phone. At Rachel's message. At the photos. At everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't confused. I was certain. This wasn't about me being too much. This wasn't about tension. This wasn't about control. This was about risk. And in her mind, I was one. I slowly picked up my phone again, scrolled back to Maya's name. Because now, I wasn't calling to ask what happened. I already knew. I was calling to see if she would finally admit it. I already knew the truth. I just needed to hear how far she'd go to deny it. I stared at Maya's name on my phone for a few seconds before pressing call. This time, she didn't pick up immediately, which was new, which meant something had shifted. By the third ring, she answered, "Hey." Her voice wasn't as steady as before. Good. Because mine was, "We're not doing that again," I said calmly. No vague answers, no deflecting. I know what you told people. Silence. Not hesitation, silence. The kind that confirms more than any response ever could. I talked to Rachel, I continued, and I've seen everything, so I'm going to ask you one time, why did you actually not want me at your wedding? A slow inhale on the other end. Then, you're overreacting. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. No, I said evenly, you told people I would have ruined your wedding. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I cut in, sharper now. Because from where I'm standing, you didn't just exclude me, you replaced me with a version of me that doesn't exist. That hit. I could feel it. Because her next response wasn't defensive, it was delayed. And then finally, "You don't understand how things felt," she said quietly. There it was. Not denial. Not anymore. Justification. I leaned back slightly, my grip on the phone loosening, but my focus sharpening. "Then explain it to me," I said. Another pause. And then she said it. Not directly, not cleanly, but clearly enough. I couldn't risk anything going wrong. My chest tightened, but not from confusion this time. From confirmation. Risk what? I asked, even though I already knew. She didn't answer right away. And that's when I said it for her. The conversation we had about Ethan. Silence. Longer this time. Heavier. Because now, we were finally talking about the real thing. "I told you that in confidence," she said, her voice lower now. "And I kept it in confidence," I replied immediately. "I didn't tell anyone, I didn't even bring it up again." "But you could have," she snapped suddenly. "Or it could have come out. Or you could have acted weird or said something without realizing. So your solution, I cut in, my voice tightening now, was to lie to me, lie to everyone else, and make me the problem? I didn't make you the problem, she said quickly. I just controlled the situation. Controlled. That word sat there between us. Cold, precise, honest. Because that's exactly what this was. Not panic, not confusion, control. You told people I was difficult, I said, that I was causing issues, that I'd ruin your wedding. I needed them to understand why you weren't there. No, I said firmly. You needed them not to question it. That landed, and this time, she didn't argue. Because there was nothing left to argue. The truth was already out. And for a moment, neither of us said anything. Because what was there left to say? She made her choice. And I finally understood it. Not emotionally. Not in a way that made it okay. But logically, and honestly, that made it worse. Because it meant this wasn't a mistake. It was intentional, calculated, finished. I hope it was worth it, I said finally. She exhaled softly. It was my wedding, Lena. And that was it. That was the answer. Not guilt, not regret. Just justification. I ended the call. No goodbye. No closure from her. Because I didn't need anything else from her anymore. But here's the thing about situations like this. They don't stay contained. Because the truth, it spreads. And this one spread fast. I didn't post anything publicly. I didn't try to expose her. I just told the truth to the people who mattered. I sent a few messages. Simple. Direct. Included screenshots of her texts. The wedding's off. The venue canceled. No commentary needed. And slowly, the responses started coming in. Confusion. Apologies. Silence from some. Defensiveness from others. But the narrative she built, it started to crack. Because lies like that only work when no one compares notes. And now, people were comparing. Rachel wasn't the only one who had doubts. A few relatives admitted they thought it was strange I wasn't there. Others said Maya had been vague when they asked. And then, the biggest shift. My parents. They called me 2 days later. Together. Which never happens. My mom sounded different. Less certain. We didn't know she told you it was canceled, she admitted. That part mattered. Because it meant even they hadn't been given the full story. We thought you chose not to come, my dad added. There it was. The version of me that Maya created, quietly corrected, slowly undone. But not without damage. Because even after the truth came out, things didn't just reset. They changed. Permanently. And Maya, her situation didn't stay untouched either. Because secrets don't like pressure. And this one, it had a lot of it. Ethan found out. Not from me. From someone else who connected the dots after everything surfaced. About the doubts, about the conversation, about the reason I wasn't there. And suddenly, the perfect wedding had cracks in it. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. And starting a marriage with that kind of foundation, it shows I didn't need updates. I didn't ask. But word travels. And from what I heard, things weren't as stable as they looked in those photos. As for me, I stepped back, not dramatically, not with some big announcement, just quietly. I stopped being the automatic fixer, the one who smooths things over, the one who shows up no matter what. Because now I understood something I didn't before. Being there for someone doesn't mean they value you being there. And sometimes, they'll only keep you close as long as it's convenient. A few weeks later, I was sitting at a small family get-together. Nothing big, just a few relatives. Rachel was there. A couple of others who had reached out. And for the first time since all of this happened, it felt normal. Not forced, not tense, just real. At one point, someone asked if I had seen the wedding photos. I paused, then shook my head. I've seen enough, and I meant it. Because I didn't need pictures to remind me of what happened. I already had clarity. And honestly, that mattered more. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed. A message. From Maya. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. It was short. I wish things had gone differently. No apology, no ownership, just distance. Like everything else, I read it once, then locked my phone, set it down, and for the first time since that weekend, I didn't feel confused. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel like I needed to respond because the truth had already done what it needed to do. It clarified everything. Who she was, what she chose, and where I stood. And as I turned off the light, one thought settled in, quiet but certain. Not being at that wedding wasn't the loss I thought it was. It was the answer.
So, was Maya protecting her wedding or hiding something bigger? What would you do?